If you're wondering how to get some more dimension, some more air, some more space, some more depth into your drum recordings, I'm going to tell you how. This is a huge tip. Huge tip. I shouldn't even be giving this away because it's that big of a secret. But I love you guys. So here it is. A few months ago, I recorded some tests with my new drum overhead mics. Previously, I was using microphones that really weren't supposed to be used for drum overheads. They were okay, but they weren't really microphones that were typically used for drum overheads. And now I have 2 extra microphones that I don't really use that often. And they're great microphones, but, what am I supposed to do with them now that I'm not using them for drums? Well, now I know what I'm going to do with them, because not only do I have 2 more microphones to use, but I also figured out how to use 2 more tracks on my interface. Now, it required another interface, but I already had that interface laying around anyway at Studio A, and I basically just coupled it with Studio B's SPDIF inputs. So no quality loss and good times. Anyway, how to get 3D, depth, space, all that good stuff into your drum recordings. When I was doing those tests, I also recorded myself. Now, mind you, I have a shitty drum set. I might have decent microphones, but I never really invested in a good drum set. I never played live. I was supposed to, 13 years ago when I was in a quote band, and that band never really came to fruition. But I have a shitty drum set, and oh well, right? The whole goal of recording is to basically capture what is in the room. And I tell you what, this is about as close as you're going to get to what these drums sound like in the room, with the exception of, I wish I had one more input to use a underside snare drum mic. But anyway, that's besides the point. So I just wanted to show you, this is on the master track. It's just a limiter. I'm not doing anything else besides limiting for the video. And this first track here is my typical setup with a snare drum mic, a kick drum mic, and overhead mics. I didn't put any on the toms. Well, I did, but I didn't include any in this mix down. So here we go. Not too bad, but let's listen to this now. And back to the original track. And the other one. Now, besides a volume increase, which will make it obviously better just for that reason, we get an extra sense of being in that room with the drummer. Again, this is the 3D one. And then without it. It's good, but it's not great. So what did I do? Now, if you've read the name of the files, you probably already figured it out. Simply, I took the stereo Omni condenser microphone that's built into my video camera, which actually sounds pretty decent, and I stuck that track and aligned it with the other drum microphones and got a very, very depth-filled audio track. And I didn't even bother doing that for a while because I'm like, it's not really gonna make that much of a difference. But sure enough, to me, the snare drum sounds more, like a snare drum, and just everything kind of breathes more. With the drum microphone, with the room mics, which really are, they're very close together, which your typical room mics aren't. And I'll get to that in a second, but just adding this extra microphone, which was about 6 to 7 feet away from the drum kit, adds that extra sense of depth that you really can't recreate with reverb. I mean, you can try, but it's a quality of the sound that you can't really duplicate. So, just to show you what it sounds like with just the room mics, here we go. Okay, now I'm going to play back the non-room mic version and then add in the room mics. Definitely much better. And I forgot to mention, if you couldn't hear it already, I am compressing these drums really, really hard. The room mic, this is a technique that a lot of professional mixers do. They basically smash the living shit out of the drum room mics, but you still keep the bigness. You don't want to smash it so much that it just distorts the hell out of it and it sounds like a mess. You want it to almost, just listen to it. It sounds like I'm pounding the hell out of the drums. Of course, I wasn't hitting them that hard, but I was hitting them, like you're supposed to. Combine them two, and you got so much more 3D sound. And of course, you can control how much more room mics you have by adjusting the fader. So maybe during the chorus, you might want to automate it so that there's more drum mics in the mix. Even just a decibel or two will give a little bit of dynamics to the track and make it sound like the drummer's hitting harder when he really isn't. So that's it. And this goes for really any instrument that you want to add depth to. Oftentimes, acoustic guitars have room mics, electric guitar, a trumpet maybe, anything really. And yeah, you can always add artificial reverb, but there's always something that can only be captured if you put another microphone up. And, you can't duplicate that artificially, unfortunately. You can come kind of close, but nothing like the real deal. Had I recorded this with microphones that were spaced wider, it would sound even better. So you add 2 similar microphones, ideally the exact same type, make and model, and you put them on the edges of where the drum set will be and point them inward, facing towards the edge of the drum kit, about ideally 8 to 12 feet away if you have the space. And like I said, maybe distance apart, really it depends on how wide your drum set is, but the important part is what you're getting on that microphone doesn't sound too bad, that it does sound like the room that you're in. And hopefully when you combine the closer microphones, including the overheads, I consider them closer microphones because they're not really that far away. Most of us don't have very high ceilings like a professional studio, so we're limited to 10 feet and under, but you can still capture a decent drum sound. If I had some nice maple drums and took the time to tune the drum heads, which by the way, the ones in this video were drum heads that I put on my drums in 2003 or maybe 2004. But regardless, they're old drums, they weren't tuned, and imagine what it would sound like. Oh my God. Of course, the one day I leave my cell phone on, I get a phone call. I'm going to wrap this up and say, this has been Adam for RealHomeRecording.com. See you next video.